On July 19th, the Office of National Statistics published their latest figures on crime in England and Wales. I know what you're thinking. The title of the video says Britain. Where are Scotland and Northern Ireland in these stats? Well, if you'd like separate videos going into the crime in those countries, then comment below and we'll get on it for you. For now, we'll refer to the data as being from the UK for simplicity, but we acknowledge that it's just referring to England and Wales. One quick thing, it's worth noting that increases in certain types of crime does not mean that there's been more crime committed. The data the ONS produces is based on police records and a survey which discusses the crimes people have experienced. As such, improvements in reporting methods can have an impact on the data produced. Finally, when I say last year, I mean the most recent year the ONS has records on, so from March 2017 to March 2018. Okay, let's dive in. The data from the ONS shows that crime in the UK has generally been falling, in line with the general trend of reducing crime rates in recent years. When looking at data going back to 1981, you can see that crime has steadily been decreasing in recent years. The most observant viewers may notice that the graph doesn't quite back up what I'm saying. It appears that crime actually increased last year rather than decreasing. However, in 2017, the crime survey for England and Wales started including fraud and computer misuse. When this data is included from this year and last, you can see that total crime is still on its way down. Because of this, the vast majority of people aren't a victim of a crime. In fact, only around 20% of people surveyed reported experiencing any kind of crime in the previous 12 months. If that's broken down by crime, you can see that 0.3% of people experienced a robbery, 1.7% some form of violence, 2.3% a computer-related crime, 2.3% experienced a domestic burglary, 3.2% suffered a vehicle-related theft, 3.2% experienced criminal damage, and 6% were victims of fraud. On the whole, there was no change in the amount of violent crimes committed, with an estimated 1.259 million violent crimes committed within the last year. Despite this, there's been a continued rise in the number of crimes committed which included knives and sharp instruments. The total rate reported by the police has increased by 16% since last year. This marks the fourth year running where knife crime has increased. Last year at the highest rate of knife crime since 2011, when comparable data started being collected. When you break down the reasons that people use knives in crime, it's clear to see that some reasons were more common than others in the most recent year. 18,784 assaults were committed using knives with the intent to cause serious harm, and 17,207 robberies were committed using knives. These two groups make up the vast majority of knife crime, but they aren't the only reasons. Knives were used 2,912 times with threats to kill, 437 rapes included knife use, 372 attempted murders, 268 homicides, and 164 sexual assaults. All of these types of knife crime increased during the last year, besides knife crimes which included sexual assault. Crimes using firearms also increased, up by 2% from the previous year. Overall, there are fewer less serious knife crime offences. However, there are more serious knife crime offences committed. However, this is said to be partly due to an increase in the accuracy of reporting. 6,492 crimes which included the usage of firearms were recorded by the police in the last year. Comparing this to other countries, you can see that the UK's rate of gun crime is far lower than many other nations. The nation with the highest rate of firearm-related deaths per year is Honduras, with 60 deaths per 100,000 citizens. The UK is far lower at only 0.23 deaths per 100,000 citizens. This puts the UK behind the majority of other countries, including the US, Canada, France, Italy, Australia, and Ireland. If you do want to know more about gun crime in the UK and UK gun control regulation compared to other nations around the world, we're making videos on these topics which are coming out in the next couple of weeks. Make sure to subscribe to be kept up to date when these videos drop. Homicides have increased in the last year for the fourth consecutive time, increasing by 12% from the previous year. Before the period of increased homicide, there was a period of long-term decline. Despite this, homicides continue to be very rare, with only 701 homicides committed in the last year. Mass homicides have a big impact on data, and as such it's often removed from official data. Including the Manchester Arena bombings and the London terror attacks, the number of homicides increases to 736. To put those numbers in comparison, the highest rate of homicide deaths per year is in El Salvador, with 82.84 deaths per 100,000 citizens. This data, provided by the UN ODC, shows that the UK is in 170th place when compared to all other reported nations, with only 1.2 homicides per 100,000 people. This puts it below Russia, the US, Canada and France. However, the UK does have a higher homicide rate than Australia, Ireland, Germany, Italy and Spain. When looking at the overall trend of homicides, you can see a consistent increase every year since 2014, with the most recent year being the highest rate since 2008. This is in sharp contrast to the previous trend of decreasing homicide rates. There's been an increased rate of some kinds of theft within the last year. There's been an estimated 17% increase in vehicle thefts, and burglaries have increased by 6% in the last year. There was also a 30% increase in the number of robberies recorded. London was the most heavily impacted by theft in the last year. 40% of all recorded robberies took place in London. Compare this to the fact that only 17% of crimes take place in London, and you can see that London is bearing the brunt of theft in the UK. When you look at the data on a larger scale, you can see that on the whole theft has been dropping. However, there's been a slight uptick in the most recent year. However, like many of the other increases, this is likely due to improvements in the recording of crime. This isn't to say that there's not also a genuine increase in crime taking place. But even if there is a real increase in theft, it's not as significant as this data makes it look. And it's certainly not as major as the changes in other types of crime. There's been a major decrease in the number of crimes committed online, with a 31% drop in computer-related crimes. The ONS reports this is largely due to a decrease in the number of computer viruses used. There was a 40% decrease in the number of viruses used in the last year, along with a 31% decrease in general computer misuse, and a 12% decrease in unauthorized access to personal information, such as hacking. If you want to know more about crime in the UK, make sure to comment below what you're interested in knowing. Also, hit the subscribe button to be kept up to date with our video about gun control in the UK and all of our other videos.